Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump nominated the second time for a Nobel Peace Prize. New York Post, Trump nominated for second Nobel Peace Prize following Serbia-Kosovo deal. The first Nobel Peace Prize nomination was for a landmark peace deal, an economic deal between Israel and the UAE. This is phenomenal. President Trump has accomplished more in about a month and a half than President Obama did in 8 years. That's not hyperbole. Can you please name a foreign policy accomplishment in the 16 years prior to President Trump taking office? Name one foreign policy accomplishment. One lasting, landmark, groundbreaking, paradigm-changing foreign policy accomplishment from Bush, from all the wonderful Lincoln Project people who backed Bush and a marriage amendment, and Cheney and Rumsfeld and Bush's miserably failed foreign policy, based upon the emotions that we all felt, and the sadness and the horror and the shock from the worst day in U.S. history 19 years ago. Tell me a foreign policy accomplishment from the Bush administration. I want one. They made the world less safe. And tell me how the people of Libya feel regarding President Obama and his Nobel Peace Prize, which he received in 2009 for doing nothing but winning the election. And then they say, well, Trump shouldn't deserve. Then you have The Atlantic now. We'll read The Atlantic, or we'll summarize the absurd argument. They're against just having the Nobel Peace Prize. If Trump said, you know what, people shouldn't breathe and eat, liberals would also then say, liberals should breathe, people should breathe and people should eat well. They would then say the case against breathing and eating. And then they say, well, we wanted leadership from Trump. No, you didn't. You just wanted Trump out of office. That's why you framed and set him up. That's why Kevin Kleinsmith has now been indicted for fabricating and falsifying and omitting information just to set up Carter Page, which was all about setting up President Trump. You already have a top bureau official indicted. More to come after President Trump wins. By the way, be here 9 p.m. every evening. We're going to make this a tradition on YouTube. We get up to like 800, sometimes over 800 viewers. And this is a small channel, about 150,000 subs. So tell your friends about this channel, H.A. Goodman's other channel. I'll be doing literally 3 segments every day in October and throughout the election. President Trump's going to win. It's going to be against Hillary Clinton. You watch. I will have made the biggest political prediction of all time, or just a great call in that President Trump's going 8 years. Nobody on the left believes this, but you have slowly, even Bill Maher saying, oh my God, what's going on? Biden can't win. They're paving the way for the inevitable. Madam Secretary taking what's rightfully hers, what the Russians stole. But anyway, be here at 9 p.m. Pacific every evening. If you want to be part of a newsletter, my website's going to come out very soon, hagoodman.com, and just email me at contactgoodman78@gmail.com. But here, Trump nominated for second Nobel Peace Prize after Serbia-Kosovo deal. President Trump has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for a second time this week, this time for brokering a historic peace deal between Serbia and Kosovo. In a Friday morning tweet, Magnus Jacobson, a member of the Swedish parliament, announced he was nominating the Trump administration and the two European nations for their joint work for peace and economic development through the cooperation agreement signed in the White House. Trade and communications are important building blocks for peace, Jacobson wrote. On Wednesday, the president was nominated for the prestigious award by a member of the Norwegian parliament for helping broker a peace deal between Israel and the UAE. For his merit, I think he has done more trying to create peace between nations than most other Peace Prize nominees, Christian Tybring-Gjedde told Fox News. This is true. This is objectively true. He literally, objectively, without a doubt, categorically, has done more than President Obama to deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. President Obama won immediately after he became president. Before he engaged in one of the most horrendous NATO interventions that literally turned Libya into a failed state. It was not a failed state before President Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize. It became a failed state after the NATO intervention. And you can't just assume if the despot was still there that it would eventually have become a failed state. Our intervention, regime change, caused an entire country to turn into a failed state that has two leaders vying for power around 10 years after the NATO intervention, that was predicated upon simply intervening to prevent slaughter and massacre. And instead, you had a greater loss of life because of, this is interesting too, because you have people, and this is because of President Obama and Clinton and Biden, but here you have the interesting case of Samantha Power, who is not only a part of setting up and framing President Trump. She wrote a wonderful book about, all the horrors, and it was a very, very, groundbreaking book on genocide, and she promised to recognize the Armenian genocide, and she didn't do that. President Obama lied. He said he would. He did not do that. And then you have people like Samantha Power, who were part of... Samantha Power defends Obama's Libya decision. This is May 19, 2016. Why aren't Democrats vacationing in Libya? It is now a haven for not only the worst organizations in the world, but there are human beings being bought and sold, according to CNN. So this is just a microcosm of why President Obama should never have received a Nobel Peace Prize. Here you have, this is exactly what you need to know about Samantha Power and President Obama and moral and righteous and morally superior and righteous liberals who engage in the same foreign policy as the Lincoln Project people. May 19th, 2016, Samantha Power defends Obama's Libya decision. Okay. This is an article by Matthew Jaffe. Okay, in CNN, May 19, 2016, Samantha Power defends Obama's Libya decision. Also CNN. November 13, 2017, migrants being sold as slaves. CNN video. Okay, where is the outrage? Libya responds to outrage over... Okay, so migrants tell of brutality in Libya. And this is a quote. I'm not even going to read the quote because then, of course, it's a horrendous quote. Okay? People for sale, where lives are auctioned for $400. CNN, November 15, 2017. Now, you have a woman, an academic, a diplomat at the forefront of human rights in the diplomatic circles of the world, who was defending President Obama's Libya decision as human beings are being bought and sold. And that's not even... You can't talk about the organizations and what's taken place the past 10 years in Libya without breaking YouTube guidelines. Then there's the covert operation to fund rebels that President Obama stopped, and of course the Washington Post said this is what Putin wants. To fund rebels to oust Assad, so that was a surreptitious regime change. And he sent Americans off to that country, region of the world. Okay. They weren't there before President Obama. And then, when you look at President Obama's signature achievement, the Iran deal, this is absolutely pathetic and hilarious and sad and frightening. Tehran was funding Assad. This is a fact also, which ensured that President Obama's rebels that he spent $500 million on that were not moderate could never remove the despot in that country. But we were supposed to trust the other country with a nuclear deal when they were launching 23 ballistic missiles and military installations were off limits. Why? Because the UN representative said, oh, it's no problem, They wouldn't build a facility in a nuclear installment. It's like, in a military installment. The international community, these wonderful career diplomats, they care about, their little drinking parties and, schmoozing and their academic functions. They don't really care about the type of hard negotiations, the type of diplomacy that President Trump has engaged in, where he has this very tough stance against Kim Jong-un, and then he becomes the first president to step foot in North Korea. This is the third time a world leader, or a top official, but a world leader in this case, has recommended and nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. The first time was President Moon Jae-in of South Korea. You can type in President Moon Jae-in, Trump, Nobel Peace Prize, and you get South Korea president. This is Reuters. Says Trump deserves Nobel Peace Prize. South Korea Moon Jae-in. Give the Nobel to Donald Trump. CNN, South Korea's president suggests Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. NPR, Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize, South Korea's president says. And then you have foreignpolicy.com pushing back. Well, if anyone gets the Nobel, it's Moon and Kim, which is true. Moon Jae-in deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. He really did. He does. He does. But this is this type of, you have President Trump doing more categorically, objectively. Economic ties between Kosovo and Serbia, when 30 years ago they were engaged in the most horrendous atrocities against one another. And diplomatic ties between the UAE and Israel. The UAE is a very important country in the Middle East, very important country in the world. And they have very, very, intelligent, forward-thinking, powerful leaders that are very influential in that region and throughout the world. And to be one of the first countries in that region, when most of the countries in the region don't recognize Israel, you have that country beginning something that could completely alter the paradigm of what's going on. That's a huge deal. Same with Kosovo and Serbia. Same with President Trump stepping foot in North Korea to begin détente between North and South Korea. Now you have, because of that, of course you had Kim Jong-un, not making it easy, but at least there was a precedent. At least there was this landmark achievement. They can't go back from that paradigm-changing moment. They can't go back from, hugging one another, embracing one another, being at the DMZ and having the United States there and the two countries. You can't go back from that. You can only go forward. Sure, there are going to be obstacles, but see, Democrats and media don't want Trump. They don't want the country. They don't want the world to prosper or benefit. They would rather mitigate and, erase any accomplishments, downplay any accomplishments even if they're amazing, even if they're Nobel Prize winning accomplishments, they would rather say, well, it's not that big of a deal because Trump is doing it. And Trump, he doesn't care about words. Do you want to know how the Nobel Peace Prize justified President Obama's prize? It was the following. The Norwegian Nobel Committee this is from the Nobel Peace Prize, nobelprize.org. The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided that the Nobel Prize for 2009 is to be awarded to President Barack Obama for his extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation between peoples. He had just been elected. He did nothing, literally nothing. He started with a Russian reset. And then he ended with Facebook ads that caused a new Cold War. And the Facebook ads took place under his watch, and then he destroyed Libya, and then he exacerbated what was going on with Assad, and then all of these things. I mean, you can... He increased the level of American soldiers, didn't remove American soldiers like he promised. The committee has attached special importance to Obama's vision and work for a world without nuclear weapons. The Iran deal was the most atrocious, absurd deal, where they literally tested 23 ballistic missiles, where everyone was like, well, my God, it's against the spirit of the deal, but technically it wasn't against the actual deal. They were able to literally test those missiles that were nuclear capable, and that was actually part of the deal. Then you have the fact-checking organizations. They got like hundreds of millions of dollars, and the rebuttal was, it was always their money. Yeah, the point was the money was withheld because they had that program, which they still had, and they always had, even during the deal that was like a horrendous deal. But anyway, Obama has, as president, check this out, created a new climate of international politics. Yeah, he made the world less safe. Trump is making the world safer. Big difference. Much safer. And in President Obama's defense, like the organization that broke off from the other organization that Bush went after, that's not President Obama's fault. That's Bush's fault. President Obama's fault was what took place in Syria and Libya and other places. But here, Obama this is hilarious. Multilateral diplomacy has regained a central position. Multilateral diplomacy, but peace deals between 4 countries, and you add North and South Korea, so 6 countries. President Trump, check this out, has presided over peace deals involving a total of 6 countries. North Korea, South Korea, Kosovo, Serbia, Israel, UAE. 6 countries. Okay? And it was President Obama who won the Nobel Peace Prize for multilateral diplomacy. Has regained a central position with emphasis on the role that the United Nations and other international institutions can play. Other international institutions can kiss President Trump's behind. They can kiss the behind of every American and the entire world. International institutions have done nothing to create diplomatic relationships that were created under President Trump. International institutions watched and were impotent when horrible genocides took place in the former Yugoslavia, in Rwanda, in Darfur. What have these international institutions done? Aside from, there have been efforts, of course, to feed people. That's good. That's good. But in terms of diplomacy, they've done very little to nothing and made things worse. You have the United Nations focusing on certain countries and ignoring other countries, and it's just a popularity game. Dialogue and negotiations are preferred as instruments for resolving even the most difficult international conflicts. Really? Okay, tell that to the Libyan people after the NATO intervention. The vision of a world free from nuclear arms has powerfully stimulated disarmament. This is all nonsense. Thanks to Obama's initiative, the USA is now playing a more constructive role in meeting the great climate challenges. So here we go. Climate challenge. You know, President Obama presided over the largest expansion of domestic oil and gas production in the history of the United States. We're now a greater producer or exporter of fossil fuels than we were before President Obama. And he was very proud of that. By the way, carbon emissions have fallen since President Trump has taken office. Nobody even gets this. But anyway, only very rarely has a person to the same extent as Obama captured the world's attention and given its people hope for a better future. What? There are human beings literally being bought and sold because of President Obama and Clinton. We came, we saw. His diplomacy is founded in the concept that those who are able to lead the world must do so on the basis of values and attitudes that are shared by the majority of the world's population. This is all public relations nonsense. Democrats, liberals around the world don't care about morality. They care about the image, the persona, the perception of morality. This is why you have conservative leaders in everywhere from Brazil to the United States, Philippines, around the world. This is why it's like President Trump's foreign policy is the foreign policy we should have had after the worst tragedy in U.S. history 19 years ago, where you don't send Americans off to never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. All those left-leaning, I read their stuff still, just because I want to know how off-based and how I want to know the extent of the fantasy world they create, the far left, regarding Trump. And they're like, well, it's true that he's not the interventionist, but he's doing, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah, any president would launch a military strike because of, unfortunately, because he's told to by generals. Or yeah, that's wrong, too. I oppose that. But that's a huge difference between sending Americans off and toppling a dictator. Huge, enormous chasm between the two. And President Trump removing Americans from Iraq, ended the war in Afghanistan officially. Amazing accomplishment. And presided over, and he's removed soldiers from Syria, presiding over doing exactly what he said. And then you have Democrats say, well, he's a con man. No, he's not. He does what he says he's going to do, or he tries to. This is why the left can't stand him. And he fights back when he's wronged. That's why they're still mistreating Bernie Sanders. And you can't find somebody who's he's a good human being, but you can't find a bigger doormat in the history of politics. The man was cheated. $200 million of his voters' money taken. And then he still is cheated 4 years later. And you watch, the only chance they have is Hillary Clinton. And slowly you're seeing Bill Maher, all these people are like, oh yeah, Biden, what? Then they say, this is hilarious. When you look at the actual polls, they say, well, the majority of Americans want the military to stop violent protests. Then you hear the polls, the majority of Americans are against property damage. The majority of Americans are against violence. Then you get the polls right after. The majority of Americans disagree with Trump's handling of the protests. He never said that peaceful protests should stop. Ever. Never. There was never a quote talking about peaceful protests. He's only talking about the property damage and the violence and the lives lost. But of course you don't get that. You get, Trump's law and order. Anybody who tells you that Trump's law and order message isn't working is an absolute imbecile who knows nothing about politics. And I don't care if they have hundreds of thousands or millions of subs. They're the biggest imbeciles on the planet, and they're the same people who were wrong about Clinton winning. And I was right, and NPR quoted me in 2016. They weren't the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the boosters on the internet. I was, according to the Huffington Post. And I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. And it's because I wanted Bernie to do exactly what President Trump is doing. If I could go back in time, I swear to God, if I could go back in time, I would write the 100 articles in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, that were given a stamp of approval by all of those editors, liberal editors. I would write in defense and advocating President Trump, because he is a fantastic president, and he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. If not two, then at least one for the two major accomplishments and for bringing home or withdrawing Americans. We can't keep them there forever. The wonderful liberals who will destroy your life on social media. That's why I don't have Twitter or Facebook, well, mainly because it's complete nonsense and a waste of time. But if you're on those social media platforms, you say one thing wrong, you lose your job. But if you are okay with Americans being kept in places of conflict forever, it's not a problem. You get retweeted. The left retweets the Lincoln Project. They're completely delusional. And then they say, well, Trump's handling he's not really the law and order type person. It's like, yeah, everyone sees that. Everyone, when he starts winning, when he wins the swing states and he goes 8 years, like I said he would 4 years ago, and he defeats Clinton, which will be unbelievable because she's the only chance they have. Biden is being propped up by media that never covers his daily, not just gaffes. You're talking about straight up demented, you're talking about overt mental issues you can see from slurring speech and meandering off and forgetting what he was saying. Even Julian Castro was saying, did you just forget what you just said? This was like months back. The other day, he said, 100 years. The pandemic cost 100 years. Then he reads the teleprompter verbatim. Then, poor guy, God bless him. God bless Joe Biden. I feel bad, but he's like, okay, next topic. End of topic. It's like, so what if he can ride a bike? That's not... The fact that he is functioning, President Trump could ride a bike as well. Okay, you wanna talk about, I'm sure that he could ride a bike also, but riding a bike and mental capacity or cognitive ability are two different things. The media does not cover this. They put more emphasis on Trump drinking water or Trump walking down a ramp in dress shoes. The ramp might have been, a metal ramp that could have been slippery, and he was in dress shoes. Not like he was wearing Air Jordans or running shoes or hiking shoes. He was in dress shoes walking down a ramp after a day where he did more in one day than Biden does in a month in his basement. But they don't cover his daily lapses of memory and his just, prolonged and meandering diatribes where he catches himself and then gets angry. And then it's like, you're the problem for not even knowing what he's saying. But the media doesn't cover it. So, then the Washington Post or Marquette University or a liberal institution calls up, what do you think about Trump's reaction to the protests? Who's going to say, well, yeah, who's going to answer the question within with some semblance of nuance or context? Okay? No one wants to be seen as a person that doesn't want racial justice. Everyone does. Everyone does. Even President Trump wants. You want to know why? We know he signed the prison reform legislation. But he doesn't want violence. That's what it's funny because they're completely delusional. They're going to lose again, and it'll be 8 years if I told you so. 8 years if you lost twice. and they're pretty much done. They're not going to roll the dice, by the way, with Biden. Like I said, I will have made the biggest political call of all time. I don't know when or how or why it's happening. It'll happen, but it'll happen. Anyway, give me your thought. And by the way, it doesn't matter if mail-in or absentee ballots have been sent out. It's completely irrelevant. I read the Politico article written in 2016 when Donna Brazile was thinking of switching candidates in September. The electors in the Electoral College, if, let's say, Clinton were to win, which she could get close, she'll lose again to Trump, but she could get close. They don't care if, the absentee votes are all for Biden. They vote based on political party. So they'll say, okay, Clinton, after a meeting, Tom Perez changing from Biden to Clinton, whatever. She'll be on the debate stage. Or if it's after the debate stage, fine. It could be like a week before November 3rd. I don't care how it happens or when it happens. Hillary Clinton is the only chance they have. And I know this. I'm not a fan of the Clintons at all. But I'm telling you, if I know this, then all the imbeciles that work for her know this. They know. They know that media has propped up this man that people think is one fry short of a Happy Meal, where the lights are on but nobody's home. They've propped him up. They have propped him up. And that cannot be, that will be all, like if they go with him in the debates, they destroy the political party. So my belief is that Clinton is going to be there at the debates. But even if she's after the debates, still, they'll go with Clinton because it's so easy to see. Their whole concept is, look, you have 30 years, 40 years of scandal, even media trying not to discuss it. They can't possibly not touch upon it. But if it's a month before the election or 3 weeks before the election or whatever, you can't focus on top secret intelligence with servers. You can't focus on that. It's just like the shock. Oh my God, it's a replay of 2016. Oh my God, this, and then they'll go and they're like, if you don't vote for Clinton, you're a misogynist, Russian racist, and they're gonna roll with that. And they almost won with that. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. They'll lose with it again, but give me your thoughts below. Be here at 9 p.m. Pacific tonight. We have such an amazing live stream every evening, and to the people who lost loved ones and suffered, both on that day and in the 20 years since, during our never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts where people like Bush and President Obama sent Americans off to. God bless you. And, thank you for everything you've done for this country and you and your family. And thank God we have President Trump. Give me your thoughts below. Be here at 9 p.m. Pacific every evening for the best late evening live stream in all of YouTube. To my new Patreons, thank you very, very much.